Secretary General announces Finland will become 31st member of NATO on Tuesday. Donald Trump set for scheduled court hearing on Tuesday. Now lists 44 people arrested in Venezuela in anti-corruption sweep of the state oil company and other related government bodies. The details of these stories and more in a moment. First on World View today, the Western Military Alliance's Secretary General has announced Finland will become the 31st member of NATO on Tuesday. The application was prompted by the invasion of Ukraine by Russia, with which Finland shares a long border. Turkey delayed the application, complaining that Finland was supporting terrorists. Sweden applied to join NATO at the same time last May, but Turkey is blocking it over similar complaints. Now, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has accused it of embracing Kurdish militants and allowing them to demonstrate on the streets of Stockholm. Any NATO expansion needs the support of all its members. Now, Finland's membership is one of the most important moments in NATO's recent history.
This is a historic week. Tomorrow we will welcome Finland as the 31st member of NATO, making Finland safer and our alliance stronger. We will raise the Finnish flag for the first time here.
Meanwhile, the head of Russia's Wagner mercenary group says he has raised a Russian flag over Bakhmut city hall in Ukraine. In a nighttime video, Yevgeny Prigozhin said Bakhmut was now Russian in a legal sense. However, he admitted Ukrainian forces were still concentrated in western districts. Ukraine has insisted its army still holds Bakhmut, an eastern city which Russia has spent months trying to capture. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine said on Sunday evening that while Russia had not stopped its assault on the city, Ukrainian defenders are courageously holding the city as they repel numerous enemy attacks. President Volodymyr Zelensky's Chief of Staff Andriy Yermak has urged people to calmly respond to the alleged fakes of those who invent a victory that does not exist in reality. In the meantime, Russian investigators have detained a woman in the hunt for the killers of pro-war blogger Vladlen Tatarsky in a blast at a St. Petersburg cafe. In video released by authorities, most likely recorded under duress, Daria Trepova is heard admitting she handed over a statuette that later blew up. But in the footage released, she does not say she knew there would be an explosion, nor admit any further role. More than 30 people were wounded in the bombing in Russia's second city. Tatarsky had been attending a patriotic meeting with supporters in the cafe as a guest speaker. A video circulating on social media showed a young woman in a brown coat apparently entering the cafe with a cardboard box. Images showed the box being placed on a table in the cafe before the woman sat down. Another video showed a statue being handed to Tatarsky. In a brief excerpt of her interrogation released by the ministry, Daria Trepova, aged 26, appeared under duress as she sighed repeatedly. Away from that, now at least 32 people have been killed after a weekend of devastating tornadoes that tore through the south and Midwest of the United States. Homes were destroyed and thousands left without power after huge storms caused devastation across several states. There have been more than 80 reported tornadoes since 31st March, according to the National Weather Service. States, including Arkansas, Tennessee, Illinois, Indiana, Alabama, and Mississippi, have all had fatalities. The death toll is highest in Tennessee, where 15 people were killed after tornadoes swept through multiple counties. Local officials had said another storm shredded through the Arkansas town of Wynne, a community some 100 miles east of the state capital, Little Rock. In a separate development, Donald Trump is set to fly from his estate in Florida to New York ahead of his scheduled court hearing on Tuesday. The former U.S. president is expected to arrive on Monday evening and will spend the night in Trump Tower. Police erected barricades outside the building over the weekend, with demonstrations expected both there and at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Trump, aged 76, is facing charges related to hush money payments made to a porn star before the 2016 election. The exact charges he faces are not yet known, but they will be read in full when he appears at the Manhattan Criminal Courts building on Tuesday. The former president will be escorted by members of the U.S. Secret Service and will reportedly fly to New York's LaGuardia Airport on his personal plane. After spending the night in Trump Tower, where extra security measures have been put in place, he will travel to the courthouse with a large Secret Service detail and surrender voluntarily. He is not expected to be handcuffed. The former president will experience standard arrest procedure, being fingerprinted and photographed before investigators complete the usual paperwork and check for outstanding warrants. He will then appear before a judge who will read the indictment, the set of charges to him. His lawyers have already said he will plead not guilty. The separate development now, Egyptian President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has met Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the kingdom's Red Sea city of Jeddah as Cairo tries to navigate through an acute financial crisis. The two leaders met on Monday to discuss joint cooperation and regional developments, Saudi state-run news agency had reported. Now, el-Sisi arrived in Saudi Arabia on Sunday. It added that other Saudi and Egyptian officials, including Saudi National Security Advisor Mossad bin Mohammed al-Iban and Egypt's intelligence chief Abbas Kamel, attended the meeting. Saudi Arabia has been providing substantial financial support to keep the Egyptian economy afloat and has repeatedly come to Cairo's aid since el-Sisi took power after leading the overthrow of democratically elected President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries made deposits in Egypt's central bank and pledged major new investments when Egypt's financial difficulties were exposed and exacerbated by the fallout from the invasion of Ukraine last year. But el-Sisi's visit comes after Riyadh signaled that it would no longer provide financial support to its allies without conditions attached. Away from that, the Dewan Rakyat, or lower house of Malaysia's parliament, approved legal reforms to abolish the mandatory death penalty for some offences. The Dewan Negara, or upper house, will now take up the legislation, and if it passes there, it will be sent to the king to be signed into law. It is widely expected to be passed by the upper house. The amendments would apply to 34 offences currently punishable by death, including murder and drug trafficking. 11 of them carry it as a mandatory punishment. Capital punishment would be removed as an option for some serious crimes that do not cause death, such as kidnapping and the discharging and trafficking of firearms. Malaysia has had a moratorium on execution since 2018, but courts have continued to send inmates to death row. Under the amendments passed on Monday, alternatives to the death penalty would include whipping and imprisonment for 30 to 40 years under certain conditions. In a separate development, at least 44 people have been arrested in Venezuela in an anti-corruption sweep of the state oil company PDVSA and other related government bodies. The crackdown began on March 17 after a communique was issued by the anti-corruption police, who called for the prosecution of officials who could be involved in serious acts of corruption and embezzlement. So far, the country's powerful oil minister Tarek El Aissami has resigned over the graft investigation, and Attorney General Tarek William Saab said on Twitter on Sunday that the prosecutor's office has detained 44 subjects linked to various corruption schemes that have sought to embezzle from the national economy. After the break, Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has filed an appeal against his conviction and jail sentence in a criminal defamation case. Do stay with us for details on this and more right after the break. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now, Kenya's top prosecutor has dropped charges against 4 lawmakers over anti-government protests a day after the opposition leader suspended the demonstrations. This is according to their lawyer. The charges were withdrawn on Monday after Raila Odinga announced he would embark on dialogue with the government after weeks of chaotic street protests. The 4 opposition lawmakers, all leaders of Odinga's party in Kenya's parliament, were arrested and charged with unlawful assembly in late March, then released on bail. Thousands of people took part in 3 marches over the past 2 weeks against the high cost of living and alleged fraud in last year's general election. During the protests, police used tear gas and water cannon, including on Odinga's convoy. A heavy police presence was deployed in Nairobi's central business district last week. A 4th rally had been planned for Monday, but it was called off temporarily after President William Ruto called for negotiations and suggested the establishment of a bipartisan committee to reconstitute the Electoral Commission. Away from that, Indian opposition leader Rahul Gandhi has filed an appeal against his conviction and jail sentence in a criminal defamation case. He was sentenced to 2 years in jail by a court in Gujarat state for 2019 comments about Prime Minister Narendra Modi's surname at an election rally. The Congress leader was also disqualified as a lawmaker later. Opposition leaders have accused the governing Bharatiya Janata Party BJP of a political vendetta. The BJP has denied this, saying that due judicial process was followed in the case. National elections are due in India next year, and Gandhi will not be allowed to contest until his sentence is suspended or he is acquitted in the case. Gandhi appeared at the court in Surat city with his sister Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and other top Congress leaders on Monday afternoon. Many Congress workers had gathered outside the court in support of Gandhi, holding banners with the words "Save Democracy" on them. A senior police official told media that a large number of police personnel have been deployed in Surat. Legal website Live Law reported that Gandhi's appeal was accompanied by 2 applications, one to suspend his sentence or get bail, and the other to suspend his conviction, a decision in his favor. In the second application could lead to his lawmaker status being reinstated, the website said. Now, Gandhi was on bail for 30 days after being given time to appeal the judgment, which was passed on 23rd March. In a separate development, a French government minister has sparked outrage after she posed for the cover of Playboy magazine. Marlene Schiappa, the Minister for the Social Economy, was fully clothed for the shoot. It will appear on the cover of the April edition in France, but the move has drawn the ire of both her political opponents and colleagues. Prime Minister Elizabeth Borne told Schiappa that her decision was not at all appropriate, especially in the current period. In recent weeks, France has seen a series of violent clashes between police and striking workers who are angry at President Emmanuel Macron's planned pension changes. His proposals would raise the retirement age by 2 years to 64. Now, Prime Minister Borne's criticisms was echoed by Green members of Parliament and fellow women's rights activist Sandrine Rousseau, who questioned the timing of the move. She told the media women's bodies should be able to be exposed anywhere. Now, the pictures will be accompanied by an interview on women's and gay rights as well as abortion. Now, 3 British nationals are currently being held in custody by the Taliban in Afghanistan, a humanitarian organization had told media. Scott Richards from the Presidium Network named one of the men as Kevin Conwell, aged 53, from Middlesbrough. Richards said Conwell and another unnamed man had been arrested in January. He confirmed a third man was also arrested on a different date. The Home Secretary said the government was in negotiations over the man. Now, elsewhere, an Israeli former head teacher has been found guilty of sexually assaulting 2 teenage students at an ultra-Orthodox Jewish girls' school in Australia. The jury in Melbourne found Malka Leifer had raped and indecently assaulted sisters Darcy Ellich and Ellie Sapper between 2003 and 2007, but it found her not guilty of abusing a third sister, Nicole Mayer. Leifer, aged 56, had pleaded not guilty to more than 24 charges and spent years fighting extradition from Israel. But in 2021, an Israeli judge ordered her extradition to Australia. The 6-week trial in Victoria's County Court heard evidence that Leifer was a revered figure at Melbourne's Adas Israel School, where the 3 sisters were students. They said they were abused by Leifer in locked classrooms at the school, on school camps, and at the head teacher's home. The abuse continued after they graduated and returned to the school as students. Teachers, they said. Now, the office of Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has named the 4 additional bases that United States forces will have access to under an existing defense agreement to expand military cooperation. The Philippine government announced in February that it would allow rotating batches of U.S. forces to indefinitely stay in the new camps, in addition to 5 local bases earlier designated under a 2014 Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA. The locations of the additional bases, however, were withheld until Monday, while the government consulted with local officials. The Presidential Communications Office said in a statement that the 4 sites will be in Isabela and Cagayan on the island of Luzon, facing north towards Taiwan, and on Palawan near the disputed Spratly Islands in the South China Sea. The bases had been assessed by the Philippine military and deemed suitable and mutually beneficial. Now, noting that the camps will also be used for humanitarian and relief operations during disasters. A U.S. official cited by media confirmed that the locations announced by the palace were the new EDCA sites. Now, oil prices have surged after several of the world's largest exporters announced surprise cuts in production. The price of Brent crude oil is trading above $84 a barrel after jumping by more than 5%. Economists warned that higher oil prices could make it harder to bring down the cost of living, but the RAC Motoring Group said it does not expect petrol prices to rise unless the higher oil price is sustained over several days. Now, Brent crude oil prices rose after Saudi Arabia, Iraq, and several Gulf states said on Sunday they were cutting output by more than 1 million barrels of oil a day. In addition, Russia said it will extend its cut of 500,000 barrels per day until the end of the year. Energy giants BP and Shell saw their share prices rise on Monday, with both rising more than 4%. Oil prices surged when Russia invaded Ukraine, but are now back at levels seen before the conflict began. However, the US has been calling for producers to increase output in order to push energy prices lower. High energy and fuel prices have helped to drive up inflation, the rate at which prices rise, putting pressure on many households' finances. Yair Selfin, chief economist at KPMG, warned that the oil price surge could make the battle to bring down inflation harder. However, she said that rising oil prices will not necessarily lead to higher household energy bills. And with that, we wrap up our package for you on Worldview today. Do ensure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel, all of which you can find on our website, spectrumtv.ng. My name is Xavier Roberts, reaching you from Uyot, the capital city of Akwa Ibom State. And you have been watching Worldview on Spectrum TV. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.